Hello, my name is Hannah Simon, and I'm a fellow at CAI. And in this video, I'm going to be sharing how to archive a teach out into Michigan Online. So here we have the Roe v. Wade teach out, which needs to be archived. So I'm going to use it as an example while I actually archive it. So here it is on Coursera, which is the learning platform that was used for this one. And I am currently in editor mode, which is the mode that you want to be in. So make sure that you click that. And yeah, you'll want this window up. And you'll also want a build spreadsheet for this specific teach out. And there's more information on how to structure the build spreadsheet and the entire process in the teach out build guide, which was created by previous fellows and Benjamin Morse. So you should look through that a few times, become familiar with it, because that will be your main resource when you're building a teach out. And if you've already looked that over and you know how to format the build spreadsheet and you want to go ahead and skip to the section of the video where I actually start building into the backend of Michigan Online, then that is totally fine. But I'm going to go through at least a few items just to be thorough. So let's get started. So the first section here is about the teach outs, which is in most teach outs. And this just explains what a teach out is and tells learners how to engage with it. So we're not going to include this in the archive on Michigan Online. We're going to skip to the first section of this teach out, which is a primer on reproductive rights. I like to copy and paste when I'm going fast, just so I make sure I spell everything right. But here I'm going to give it its own row, and I highlighted it so that it's recognizable amongst the other content items. So now we'll grab our first content item, which is a reading on reproductive rights. And I'll give the reading a quick overview and see that it introduces some videos and introduces the experts in the videos. So fill in the information, it's a reading. And we are going to include this in the archive because you want the videos and other content items to have introductions, to explain what the item is and who the experts are. And if you have any questions about what should and what shouldn't go in an archive, the build guide has more information on that. So for this reading, it's really just an introduction. So in Coursera, the learning platforms are a little bit different than Michigan Online, the way that everything is formatted. So in Coursera, the readings are separated from the videos. But in Michigan Online, we can attach introductions and conclusions to videos and other content items. So we're going to want to make this an introduction to the following video. So I'm going to take that text, put it here. This is a step that I like to do. You don't have to do the HTML in this document, but I like to do it just because I like to have all of the components in one place when I go to build. I think it makes it a little bit faster. And again, this is going to frame the next video. So I'm going to write use to frame. All right, and I can go through HTML quickly. If you're not familiar with HTML, W3 Schools is a great resource. I'll refer to it if I forget a tag for something. And I believe there's like basic HTML instructions in the build guide as well. So let's double check. There are 2 paragraphs, an unordered list here, and a link. So I'm going to make that unordered list. An unordered list is bullet points, and an ordered list is like 1, 2, 3. Oops. You want to be really careful when you're doing this, because if you forget a dash or forget a character, it can mess up the formatting on Michigan Online. So you really want to make sure that your HTML is correct. that you look over everything. So there's my list. I do my list items. And sometimes the HTML will be a little bit more complicated because there's a large reading with a lot of links or whatever it is. And in that case, I'll probably make a new document and put the text into that document and then do the HTML there because it's a little bit easier than doing it in this cell in the spreadsheet. We have our list items. I think this was bold, this optional, yep. Make that bold. So easy to just have a typo in this, so you really want to check your work. There was a link somewhere, what the data says about abortion in the US. So we'll go here. Sometimes also, if I have a lot of links, I'll like to have W3 spools up so I can just copy the link formatting for HTML. Woo. Okay, this is a good example of what not to do. You don't want to mess up anything in Coursera or in your learning platform. So you have to be really careful when you're working in editor mode not to adjust anything in here. So I had to fix that mistake, but what I wanted was this link. And then link text. You can stop there. Close your tab. And that looks good. Make this its own paragraph. Ugh. All right, looks good. So now we're going to move on to the next item. The next item is a video called Defining Abortion. So we'll take the title, pop it in there. Always include videos. And then we're going to.
My name is Dee Fenner.
I like to listen to the first part of the video and then go to the playlist on Michigan Online that holds the teach out and all of the videos within the teach out. And then I usually look for the cover image to match and the time, but then I'll double check it. So it was this one, I already looked at it.
My name is Dee Fenner.
So that's the right video. I'm going to get the shareable link. You want to make sure you get this one and not the URL. Paste it in here. And that was 8 minutes something. 8 minutes, 48 seconds. But we're going to round up because that's the way it goes into Michigan Online. There are no seconds. So yeah, now you have another item. And I like to actually put the text that corresponds with the video in the row where the item is. It corresponds with the item in the row where the item is. And be careful when you do this, when you copy and paste, like for instance, this, when I copy and paste it, it added these quotations, so you don't want that. All right, and I think the only other thing to note is that oftentimes in introductory reading, we'll introduce different experts in different videos. And in that case, so let's say this reading introduced a bunch of different videos and each video had a different expert. Let's say 3 different videos. I would say use to frame next 3 videos. And then I would take this text and split it up so that it introduces the corresponding video. But we don't have to do that in this one. So yeah, there you go. That's how you make your build spreadsheet. Again, look at the build guide to know exactly what to include in the archive. You're not going to include discussion prompts or discussion threads. So let's say this was the next item. I'd still include it in the big build guide, but I'm not going to include it in the archive. So I'll write no, and that's all I have to do for that. So yeah. All right, so here we have the finished build spreadsheet for the Roe v. Wade teach out. As you can see, we have all of the sections, all of the lessons. I believe there are 7, all of the information that we need for the build in Michigan Online, all the HTML. It's very beautiful to me. All right, and I came across a few things that I think are worth talking about while I was getting all this information in. One of them was that this content context note section that I talked about briefly. It's really important that you look through all of the readings and make sure that the information you're transferring from Coursera to Michigan Online makes sense for the formatting of the archive on Michigan Online. So for example, in this lesson, in this section, there was a reading called Supreme Court Cases. Here I'm on the reading, and there are 3 paragraphs in this reading. The first talks about the Supreme Court and Roe v. Wade general statement. The next is introducing an ungraded plugin, which is not included in the archive online on Michigan Online. And then the final paragraph introduces a video. So we're not going to want to include this middle paragraph, but we do want to include these 2 paragraphs in the archive. So you just want to make sure you catch things like that so you don't have any information that's not relevant to the archive, because we want everything in Michigan Online to be as high quality as possible. So I took out that middle paragraph and just use these 2 paragraphs to frame this video. Another example of this came up in this reading. Let's see what it is. So this reading says, in the previous video, you heard Barbara McQuade, blah, blah, blah. So this comes up occasionally where the introduction in the learning platform in Coursera, in this case, comes in a reading after the video or after the content item. So you just want to make sure you catch that. And so I took that paragraph that talked about introducing Barbara McQuade, edited it a little bit. So it says in this video instead of in the previous video. And I'm going to use that as the framing for the corresponding video, which is this one. And then the rest of those paragraphs are going to sit alone as their own reading in here. So I made that its own row with its own cell in the build spreadsheet. So yeah, just make sure that you're reading all of the readings so you catch little things like that. Okay, so now we're ready to build. So we're going to go to Michigan Online, go to the admin side, and then you're only going to use these few tabs in Michigan Online ever. Go to Content Archives, and we're ready to get started. So you're going to click Add Content Archive section. And what this means is we're adding a lesson to be included within a learning experience, in this case, a teach out. So the learning experience is Roe v. Wade And then we're going to get the title of the first lesson. So go back to our spreadsheet. First title is a primer on reproductive rights. I'm going to copy and paste. And this is the weight of this lesson, this archive section, as it appears in Michigan Online. This is the first one, so you can do 0 or 1. It's computer language, so 0 stands on its own. You can do either though. If you don't have a 0, 1 comes first. I like to do 1, just so I can keep track better, because there are 7 in my mind. So, all right, so we're going to publish it and add the first item. All right, so the first item is a reading, and we're including it in the archive, but it's being used as an introduction. So we're going to take the second one, defining abortion, add this, it'll pop in the slug, make sure that it's published, spelled wrong. This is going to be the first, again, first or 0, it doesn't matter. Let's check the length. Our length is 9 minutes for this video. Then we put in our introduction. Cool. So I don't have to do anything because I did all of the HTML already. You might want to check everything over, make sure that your HTML looks good. Then you get your link, your YouTube link, embed it, and that's your first item. So we'll move on to the second one. Another video. Patient realities. That's in the slug. This is item 2. It's 2 minutes. And it doesn't have an introduction because pieces of it were from this one. So move on to the next one. Another video. ACLU and abortion access. Published. This is the third item in the lesson. Uh-oh. Didn't get a length for that, so I'm going to click on it. 7 minutes and 17 seconds. So I'll add that in there. 7 minutes. And did I get this? Awesome. And then we're not including this reading, not including this discussion. So we move on. We click save and add another. I'm actually going to go through and make sure that I clicked publish, that I have everything in the order that I want it to be in. Everything looks good. Awesome. So we're going to do save and add another. So you can see it successfully added to Michigan Online. Let's do one more together. Roe v. Wade. The next one is called, it's a long title. And this is the second lesson in the teach out. So the first item in this lesson is Supreme Court cases. It's being used as a framing reading though, so I'm not gonna include that as its own section, and we're gonna take this one, a timeline of reproductive rights. Paste, make sure it's published. The first item. Oh, oops. It was going too fast. So that's an ungraded plugin. We're not using it. We are using this one though. It's a video. It's 2 minutes long. Let's get the introduction. There we go. HTML looks good. Sorry. That spacing looked weird to me, but that's right. Okay. Next one, another video. Publish. It's the second. It's 5 minutes long. It has an introduction. Uh-oh. So see, I missed an ending paragraph, so I'll add that in. Yeah. Good to check. So that doesn't happen. Next one. It's going to be a reading. And when you have a reading, you set the length based on how long it takes the average person to read a word. I believe it's, I have to double check. I'll do like a pop-up on what the rule is for words per minute. But let's just say for now, I'm going to say this would take you 3 minutes to read, but you should check that when you're going through. Add another content item, another video. It's the fourth. And so once you get to the fourth item within a lesson, you're going to have to make your own slug. It's not going to automatically do it. It's important to take your time and get all of the information in the title in the slug, just because this helps for discoverability. Of the teach out. So I'll do that. I get this 4-minute long video. And number 4. Cool. I think we have one more. It's video with another long title. Let's make the slug. So yeah, slugs, you can't have any characters under them other than letters. So we'll get rid of that. Uh-oh. Okay, this is why it's good. Yeah, this is Richard Freeman. This should be titled. Oh, it is. Okay. Richard Freeman. Oh, I think you can't go. The slug is too long. Okay, that's fine. Published. It's the 5th item. It's 3 minutes long. Oops. And that's all. The last one's a discussion. We're not going to include that. Let's double check. Everything is in there. The orders is right. Cool. Looks great. So go ahead and save and add another. And once you save it, if you've clicked publish, it's going to be on Michigan Online. So yeah. All right, so we have the final archived version of the Roe v. Wade Teach Out on Michigan Online. Here it is. You know that it's published and archived because it has this lessons tab. If the Teach Out is live, it won't have this, so you can click on lessons. And here are all of sections that we archived. You want to start by going through all of the lessons, making sure that each item has a length, is titled accurately, looks good. Awesome. And then I'll go through the entire teach out, look at each item, make sure that the HTML looks good. It's how I wanted it to look. Links work. I know I wanted that to be bold, so I'll go back and check on that. But yeah, you're just going to go through the archive. It's easy with these next and previous buttons. It looks good. And there you have the finished product of an archived teach out. So once you've successfully archived the teach out, go to the archive process order spreadsheet, which holds all of our teach outs and whether or not they've been archived. Find the teach out or write it in. I've already written archive, but make sure you mark it. Oh my goodness. Make sure you mark it as archived. Link to the learning platform that was used. I haven't done that, but I will, and the YouTube playlist. And if you can, it'd be great to add a list in the expert sheet of all of the experts who contributed to the teach out. This is really helpful for analysis in the future of the model. We do a 5-year report on the teach out model, and it's helpful to look at the data of the experts and to be able to contact them in the future. So yeah. So the last thing I want to talk about is an issue that comes up sort of frequently with publishing teach outs. Here's an example that I came across, a real example. I was looking through the teach outs, and this is a teach out that was live a long time ago. It's no longer live, but it looks as if it's active and live on Michigan Online right now. So an archive teach out should have the lessons tab, and it should have all of the archive lessons that the learner can go through. So this is saying that it's a live teach out right now and you can join it, but you can't because it's not. So we need to fix that in Michigan Online. So we'll go to the admin page, and you're going to want to click learning experiences and then find the COVID teach out. Here it is. You're going to want to go all the way to the bottom, and here are the learning sessions. So the reason it's saying that it's live is because there's a learning session that doesn't end until 2023. Actually, there are a lot of them that say that they're ending in the future, meaning that the teach out is still live. So you want to make sure that the teach out that's published, that the session has ended. So here is the column that says whether or not it's private or public. So you want the unchecked teach out, the public teach out, to not be live anymore. So let's look at a date. It's September. So this would not be live anymore. So I'm going to click all of these that are in the future, make them private so that the only one that will be published is the one that ended before today's date. Save. Now let's look at it. Oop. Let's reload the teach out on Michigan Online. And there we go. That's the way it should look when it's archived. Have all of the lessons and the archive teach out. So there you go.